So a few days ago, I was enjoying a late, lazy morning tea. And I do mean lazy. I was draped on our sofa in my cozy pajamas and my robe, looking out at the cold, windy outdoors, appreciating the beauty that our view of the lake brings, and also feeling a little smug satisfaction at being able to view it from inside. There is really something about looking at a cold scene from a warm place that brings out the self-congratulatory in me. Like, yes, I did it. I'm in here enjoying a lovely moment, and it's out there unable to distract me. But this cozy reverie was interrupted by the high, raucous call of a bird. It is a call I've come to know and cherish over the last year of living in Lake County, one that I have only become acquainted with since moving here. I knew it instantly as one of the noises that a bald eagle makes. The first time we saw a bald eagle in Lake County was actually the first time we ever visited our now home. After our walkthrough with our realtor, Alex pulled me aside and said, "I'm pretty sure that when I walked to the edge of that deck and looked out, I saw a bald eagle fly past." And that suspicion was confirmed after we bought the house by many sightings of eagles flying over the lake. I'll never forget the first time I saw one in the wild. It was during the intense snow and ice storm last year. The power was out in our home, and I happened to be looking out our windows at the cold lake. And suddenly there it was, an eagle soaring so magnificently that it held my attention over the snow and through the cold and the lack of power. But our eagle watching got even better when we learned that a mated pair likes to use our next door neighbor's tall pine tree as a lookout perch. And the tree just so happens to be positioned so that from our deck you get a perfectly clear view of these flat, topmost branches that the eagles like to use as their landing spot. Last spring and summer, we watched as this pair of eagles taught their young family to hunt for fish, which was an amazing thing to witness. They visit so often that we have nicknames for them. The slightly bigger, fiercer looking one is Mama, in keeping with what we've read about female eagles. And the smaller, more demure one is Papa. That's the way eagles roll. Mama often visits us solo, but sometimes she and Papa visit together. And then they sit on the same branch and make trilling noises at each other. It's quite romantic, actually. All that to say, when I heard this bird's cry, I sprang to attention. It was the signal to begin my ritual. You see, the sight of these eagles thrills me every single time. It has a way of bringing me into the present moment, making me aware of the beauty of our world and the intricacy of all the things going on in it. I've come to understand that for me, the call of an eagle is a mindfulness bell, a signal to come home to a spiritual practice. So I have developed a ritual that accompanies this mindfulness bell. Every time I hear that cry, if possible, I drop what I'm doing and rush outside with our binoculars to try to spot our eagle visitor. So when I heard that call, gone were my smug thoughts about staying warm indoors, my fear of the cutting wind dissipated, and I just went and looked. And sure enough, I was able to witness her. I felt this familiar sense of awe and being in the present moment, aware of the wind and the sound of the water and my own heartbeat. I I experienced what I can only call a return to something deep within me, a brush with the numinous, or what my Taoist friends and teachers have called a return to the root, a practice of following the way. I used a word there, numinous, which I may have talked about before, but may also be unfamiliar to some of you. It is a word derived from the Latin numen, which means arousing spiritual or religious emotion, mysterious or awe-inspiring. The numinous refers to a force that moves our ordinary human understanding, our rational senses, to a state of receiving mystery and wonder. A brush with the numinous is a marker of the sacred, a connection with meaning deeper than that which our ordinary language can grasp. The numinous is an experience that resists easy categorization, but that reveals truth to us through its presence. And I believe that rituals can help us brush against this feeling, this experience that resists easy definition, but puts us in touch with revelation and remembering and returning. The eagle, the mindfulness bell, my ritual, and the numinous, all of them help me return to my roots. Our opening words this morning came from the Tao Te Ching, and I want to read most of them for us again now. Be completely empty. Be perfectly serene. The 10,000 things arise together. In their arising is their return. Now they flower, and flowering sink homeward, returning to the root. The return to the root is peace. Peace to accept what must be, to know what endures. In that knowledge is wisdom. To know what endures is to be open-hearted. The body comes to its ending, but there is nothing to fear. Right now, we are at the beginning of another year of the Gregorian calendar. It's a time when we encounter many cultural narratives about resolutions, goals, and intentions, when we are asked to consider how we want to be and what we want to do this year. With all congratulations and respect to those of us who set intentions for the new year and stick to them, sometimes it seems to me as if resolutions are meant to be forsaken. Goals meant to not be reached. Intentions meant to be left by the wayside. And sometimes this is due to us letting things go. And sometimes it's due to circumstances beyond our human control. Things going on in the world, in the life of a loved one, in our own bodies. 10,000 things arise indeed. So entering this year, I keep returning to this passage from the Tao and to my experiences with our eagle friends. Watching Mama perched high in the pine tree, looking out at the vastness of the lake, she seems, in the words of the Tao, perfectly empty and perfectly serene. She is rarely fazed by anything. Many times I have seen our local flock of crows, likely concerned about eagles' predation on their own young, attempt to drive Mama from her perch up in the tree. They call loudly and swoop down at her, sometimes in great numbers, creating as much of a fuss and fury as they can. It rattles me, and I'm just watching. But it doesn't seem to bother Mama at all. She never leaves her perch. Occasionally, during the most intense of these crow dive bombs, she'll stretch out her powerful wings and flap them once. once, scattering the crows. Or she'll give one, maybe two loud warning cries, and then just go back to staring serenely out at the lake. When I think of 10,000 things arising and flowering, I think of those crows. When I think of returning to the root, which is peace, the peace to accept what must be and know what endures, I think of Mama. Whatever her root is, it is rock solid. And I'm like, drop me some of that root on your next pass overhead, Mama Eagle, because the way the world is going, I need it. We need it. Yes, I think Mama Eagle knows what Taoists call the way. What is the way? To quote the first chapter of Le Guin's translation of the Tao, which she titles Taoing, the way you can go isn't the real way. The name you can say isn't the real name. Heaven and earth begin in the unnamed, names the mother of the 10,000 things. So the unwanting soul sees what's hidden, and the ever-wanting soul sees only what it wants. Two things, one origin, but different in name, whose identity is mystery. Mystery of all mysteries, the door to the hidden. Wow, what does any of that mean? Well, Le Guin writes that a satisfactory translation of this chapter is perfectly impossible. It contains the book, she says. I think of it as the Aleph, she writes. If you see it rightly, it contains everything. What I think Le Guin is getting at is that the way is intricately bound up with this idea of the numinous, inexplicable brushes with mystery that touch and transform us. I think the Tao is suggesting that to return to our root, to follow the way, we must be open to receiving the numinous at any moment. And that's beautiful, but maybe not terribly helpful. This all seems purposefully opaque and obtuse, a mystery wrapped in riddles, something one can almost grasp, but that inevitably slips through the fingers. Mama can't tell me the secret of her root because she's an eagle. Le Guin thinks this is impossible to translate, so why am I drawn back to it? I haven't learned Mama Eagle's secret yet. I don't understand the mystery of all mysteries. But I know that just like those crows, 10,000 things will arise this year. We don't know exactly what they will be or when they will happen. Some of them we may expect, and some will come out of the blue. Nevertheless, they will arise. When they do, how will we meet them? As Thich Nhat Hanh says, to suffer, to meet things with suffering, is not enough. We must also be in touch with the wonders of life. They are within us and all around us, everywhere, anytime. I think that the wonders of life within and all around us, everywhere at every time, point us to the roots and to peace and to the way. I love the imagery of roots spreading underground, tangling with each other, holding up mighty trees, all part of a delicate, ancient ecosystem of living things. So I want to ask, what are your roots? What are the things that chime like a mindfulness bell in your spirit, bringing you back to yourself when the 10,000 things arise and come flapping at you? What are the things that support you in accepting what must be and knowing what endures, leading you down the path of open-heartedness and wonder? I want to encourage you to invest in these things this year, the things that bring you back to your roots of peace. Maybe they are as simple as your favorite hot morning beverage on a cold day, or a jaunt around your neighborhood, or your favorite song playing in the background of whatever it is you're doing. Maybe they are more complex, a deep conversation with a friend, a transcendent experience of wonder, a journey down a cherished and bittersweet memory lane. Whatever your roots may be, I invite you to notice them more, to embrace them and cherish them and let them bring you back into your body, your aliveness, into the present moment. As I was tinkering with my sermon this morning, I wondered how I would possibly manage to close it. Endings are sometimes elusive. And then I heard it again. That high, piercing call, and I dropped everything. My sense of responsibility to write a good sermon, my hopes and fears that it would be good enough, my computer and my cup of tea. I grabbed my binoculars and raced outside, and yes, there she was, sitting in those high branches framed against Mount Kanakdai in the early morning light. Wow, I thought, what timing? What does any of it mean? And looking at Mama, I felt the numinous move me. And suddenly I got what Le Guin means. It's impossible to articulate, but some things, when you look at them with an open heart, contain everything. So in this year, in 2024, may we all find those moments along the way, those moments that contain everything. May we return to our roots again and again, cherishing the mindfulness bells that help us find our way home. May we accept what must be, know what will endure, and perceive what is hidden. May we find peace and serenity in the moments and places where we least expect them. May we flower and flowering sink homeward. Amen. Selah, blessed be, may it be so.